Without objection, the reading is dispensed with, and the gentleman, Mr. Carter, is recognized for 5 minutes to speak on his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week, 3 little children who are citizens of the United States of America and citizens of the state of Louisiana were unconstitutionally detained by ICE, then unconstitutionally trafficked out of this country to Honduras. One of those little children is a 4-year-old boy with a rare form of cancer. It's stage 4, and that little boy is going to die if he doesn't get back to the United States where he belongs. I'm shocked, and it takes a lot to shock me these days, that I even have to propose this amendment to prohibit funds from being used to deport minor children who are citizens of this country. But unfortunately, we're here. Look, it's already illegal to deport citizens. As federal courts have said, quote, any ICE officer would know it is illegal and unconstitutional to deport, detain, for deportation or recommended deportation a U.S. citizen, end quote. Moreover, to quote federal courts, an ICE officer who actively participates in the detention and or removal of a person who he knows to be a U.S. citizen or upon minimal investigation would discover is a U.S. citizen would be deemed to know that such conduct clearly denies that person's liberty without due process, end quote. So the ICE field office director in New Orleans and every ICE officer who aided or effectuated the removal of these little citizen children from the state of Louisiana to Honduras were trampling on the Constitution. They said, to hell with it. Can't say that about our Constitution. Congress cannot allow taxpayer dollars to be spent for unconstitutional actions that harm little children who happen to be U.S. citizens. I've seen people on the internet and some of my Republican colleagues say that children's mothers somehow consented to the deportation of their children. Let me dispel this myth. First of all, as a Trump-appointed judge in Louisiana said, quote, the court doesn't know that, end quote, because the Trump administration refused to pick up the phone when the judge called to speak to one of the mothers about her so-called consent. Second, a mother cannot give meaningful consent to the deportation of her citizen children while she is under duress and held by ICE with no access to her lawyer, while her lawyer is pleading with ICE to get into the room, and while she cannot get into contact with the children's father. What is a mother to do if she doesn't know whether ICE will let her kids go on the side of the road or just house them in a different cell to suffer alone? There's no lawful consent that could be given under those circumstances. Third and finally, the father of these children did not consent to their children's unconstitutional deportation to Honduras. To quote the Supreme Court in Troxel v. Granville, quote, the liberty interest of parents in the care, custody, and control of their children is perhaps the oldest of the fundamental liberties interest recognized by this court, end quote. Yet again, ICE and DHS ignored the Constitution and deported children citizens. What is fascist hell has this country become in just the first 3 months of the Donald Trump presidency? Let me repeat that. What in fascist hell has this country become in just the first 3 months of Donald Trump's presidency? We cannot sit back and let ICE deport citizens, especially children. My tiny constituents may die in a foreign country because of the ICE field office in New Orleans and the actions of the Trump administration, which Republicans apparently want to spend more money on. Where is the human decency? Let's get these citizen children back. Congress has planes. We should go get them, bring them home from Honduras, get these children back home to their fathers.
Gentleman's
Instead,
time
we're
has
trying to
expired.
risk and
Does
get
the
them into
gentleman
the
insist
hands
upon his point of order?
hospitals where
Gentleman's
they
time
can
has
live.
expired. Does Mr. Guest
Mr.
insist
Chairman,
upon
I
his point of
yield.
order?
I withdraw my point of order.
Point of order is withdrawn. Do any other members wish to speak on this amendment?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Magaziner is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I speak in support of Mr. Carter's bill. It is outrageous that the Trump administration is deporting children who are U.S. citizens and pose no threat to the United States. What world are we living in where my Republican colleagues are willing to accept this? And I just want to add some context here. As far as I'm aware, in none of the cases where U.S. citizen children have been deported were their parents accused of any crime in the United States, pose any threat to public safety, and it seems that they were denied the opportunity to even consult with a lawyer before they and their children were deported. April 24th in New Orleans, U.S. citizens aged 4 and 7. The 4-year-old has a rare form of late-stage cancer. The mother was not able to speak with family members or any lawyers before she and the children, including the U.S. citizen child with cancer, were deported. Not even allowed to talk to a lawyer. That U.S. citizen's rights were denied. Family number 2, April 22nd, a 2-year-old U.S. citizen deported to Honduras with his mother and sister. Now picture that you are the father of this 2-year-old. The father, and we know this from legal filings, the father received a call from an ICE officer who said that the mother was there and that they did not have much time to speak, but they were going to be deported. The father was able to speak with the mother for only a minute. He heard his daughters crying in the background. He told the officer that their daughter was a U.S. citizen and could not be deported. The officer said that the daughter would not be deported. The father began to give the mother the phone number of their attorneys, but before he could, he heard the officer take the phone from her and hang up the call, and they were all deported, including the 2-year-old U.S. citizen. No opportunity to speak with a lawyer. Barely any opportunity at all to speak with family. Why? What was the urgent threat posed by this 2-year-old? None. And this is the slippery slope. They start with people who are undocumented. Then it's legal immigrants in the United States. Then it's U.S. citizens who are 2 years old. If they keep trampling on rights, pretty soon, everyone's rights are going to be under threat. This is how it happens. We have to draw the line. So if nothing else, can we at least come together as a committee and as a Congress and say no to deporting children who are U.S. citizens, especially when no access to legal counsel has been afforded? Can we at least do that? And I yield back.
The gentleman yields. Do any other members wish to speak on this amendment?
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Thompson is recognized.
Thank you very much. It must be really tough for my colleagues on the other side to vote against this. I mean, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, I'm a godfather, I'm an uncle, I'm a cousin to children, and who are all American citizens. And all we're saying is, say, look, don't do children this way. Through no fault of their own, we're going to deport them. And I would hate if somebody did a relative of Benny Thompson's like that, or a relative of anyone else's like that. We are a better country than what's being exhibited in this bill. Just being mean to children is not the way to go. I encourage my colleagues to support this amendment. It makes sense. Children didn't ask to be born in this country, but if they are, they should be afforded every right that an American citizen is provided. And it can't be just based on innuendo or what somebody said. We talked about the mother said. Well, we don't have proof other than what the other person said. There's no video, there's nothing. And so I think what we have to do is err on the side of what makes sense. We're a nation of laws. Children are here. It's a blessing to have them if you're fortunate. But you also have other children that you help with. And so I implore my Republican colleagues, do a little soul searching before you vote against this bill, because it's absolutely tough, I think, to vote against children. Most elected officials will say that children are some of the people we have to support. This is an amendment that supports children. We should not be about punishing children who have not broken the law. Being an American citizen is not illegal. Therefore, you should not be deported. So I ask my colleagues to support the amendment made by the gentleman from Louisiana. Yield back.
The gentleman yields. Any other members seek recognition? There being no further discussion, the question now occurs on the amendment offered by Mr. Carter of Louisiana. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it, and the amendment to the amendment in the
Mr.
nature of
Chairman.
a substitute is not adopted. Mr. Thompson is recognized.
On that, I ask for the yeas and nays.
Recorded vote is requested pursuant to Committee Rule 7C. Further proceedings on this question are postponed. Are there any amendments to the amendment in the nature of a substitute to be further considered? Mr. Magaziner,
Mr. Chairman,
you have an amendment at the
Yes,
desk?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
Mr. Guest?
Chairman, I seek recognition. I reserve a
Gentlemen.
point of order.
Gentleman reserves a point of order. The clerk will distribute the amendment. The clerk will report the amendment.
An amendment to the amendment in the nature of a substitute to the committee print by the Committee on Homeland Security, offered by Mr. Magaziner, number 023.
Without objection, the reading is dispensed with. The gentleman, Mr. Magaziner, is recognized for 5 minutes to speak on his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My amendment is a simple one. It aims to prevent President Trump from sending United States citizens to foreign prisons like the prison in El Salvador. As United States citizens, we have inalienable rights: the right to due process, the right to free speech, and the right not to have our own elected leaders send us to foreign prisons and then claim that those rights no longer apply. If it can happen to someone else, it can happen to you. And I would just urge my colleagues on both sides of the aisle. I know we don't agree on everything, but if we can agree on nothing else, can we at least agree on not sending U.S. citizens to rot in foreign prisons? And this is not an idle possibility. President Trump has repeatedly stated that he wants to send U.S. citizens to prisons in El Salvador. He said to the president of El Salvador, quote, "I said the homegrown's next, the homegrowns." Elon Musk said, "Great idea." And Trump said, "I'd do it in a heartbeat." Donald Trump has instructed the Attorney General to look into deporting U.S. citizens to other countries. During a White House press briefing, the White House spokesperson said that the president has been discussing this idea quite a few times. Can we just cut this off now? Let's not send U.S. citizens to foreign prisons. This is insane. It is outrageous. And every American should be terrified by this prospect. What we have right now is an out-of-control president who believes that the law does not apply to him, who believes that he is above the Constitution, but no, we are a country of laws, we are a country where every U.S. citizen is protected under the Constitution, and U.S. citizens should not be sent to foreign jails. So I'm just going to stop there because this is simple, it is cut and dry, and I would just urge all my colleagues, you're going to have to vote on this. And think about how that vote is going to age over time. If U.S. citizens are sent to be tortured and possibly die in a foreign jail because we allow it to happen, how is that vote going to age? Let's just cut this off right now. It has nothing to do with making the border more secure. It has nothing to do with making our country safer. This is about protecting the fundamental rights of American citizens. It's about protecting the Constitution that we all swore an oath to uphold. Let's do the right thing here. And I yield back.
Mr. Chairman,
The gentleman yields. Mr. Guest, you recognized.
I'd like to withdraw my point of order.
The gentleman withdraws his point of order.
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized?
Mr. Goldman, you wish to speak on this amendment?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Goldman is recognized to speak on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're dealing with an amendment that at its core relates to using U.S. funding, U.S. resources to pay for people who are in this country to be housed at one of the most brutal, cruel prisons in the world. This prison would violate the Eighth Amendment if it were in the United States. Of course, it's not in the United States, so there is no Eighth Amendment in El Salvador. And I bring this up because even though Mr. Abrego Garcia is not a citizen, and so this amendment itself does not directly relate to him, the idea that the President of the United States would say, I have no ability to bring him back from an El Salvador prison when we are paying for him to be there. And you don't have to take my word for it. The Vice President of El Salvador said to Senator Van Hollen when he went down there, well, why are you keeping him? Because we're being paid to keep him here. And if we weren't being paid, then we would happily turn him back over. So let's call a spade here. We all know that it is entirely false and bogus to claim that he cannot be returned to the United States from El Salvador. Let's just agree, can we all, that that is not actually the reason why the President of the United States has defied a 9-0 Supreme Court order. And I think we should also be able to agree that the word facilitate means, as very conservative appellate judge Harvey Wilkinson said, to actually do something. How about doing something by stopping payment for Mr. Abrego Garcia's incarceration? That would certainly be facilitating. That is sufficiently easy enough, and that is at the power of President Donald Trump to do. So let's get rid of this fiction that he can't be brought back. He can easily be returned by President Trump. At a Judiciary Committee hearing a couple weeks ago, even former Speaker Newt Gingrich acknowledged that given the admitted mistake, quote unquote, of deporting Mr. Abrego Garcia to a country where there was an order that he should not go to, he said he should be brought back. Why can we not all agree that he should be returned to this country to go through due process? I don't know whether he's a member of MS-13 or not, but neither does the president, and he doesn't get to decide that. In our country, a court gets to decide that based on evidence presented to the court. So I urge, once again, my Republican colleagues to speak up, to urge the president. You could even do it privately. You don't even have to do it in public. But I urge you to call over to the White House and to encourage the president to correct his own admitted mistake and return someone so they can get the due process that they deserve, that the Supreme Court has said unanimously. Such far-left activist judges as Justice Kavanaugh, Justice Alito, Justice Thomas, Justice Gorsuch, Justice Coney Barrett, 3 of whom Donald Trump nominated, they all say he needs to be brought back because of due process. And you all sit silently while he defies the Supreme Court order. Come on. You're better than this. I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Would anyone else wish to speak on the amendment? Ms. Ramirez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. I just, for the record, want to actually read the amendment that the gentleman from Rhode Island has entered for a vote. It's very simple, and let me read it into the record. None of the funds made available by this title may be used by the Department of Homeland Security, its employees or contractors to aid, promote, or effectuate the detention or incarceration in a foreign prisoner of any citizen of the United States, except in compliance with treaty obligations and federal extradition laws and policies. I just need to make sure, as our constituents are listening, what my colleagues are about to vote on. I don't know how many of you, when you were campaigning, you said, listen, and I'm going to make sure that we're also going to be using your taxpayer dollars to deport you if you're not in agreement with the President of the United States. I don't think any of you said that. But the idea that you would actually go on record to vote to deport U.S. citizens to a prison like Sika is unconscionable to me. You have said that you have signed an oath to protect the Constitution, and you would actually go as far as saying, in a time that you're saying at town halls, well, listen, we have a deficit, we are broke, that you're going to use taxpayer dollars to deport United States citizens. It just seems unimaginable. So what I'm asking of you is to affirm the idea that your constituents are smart and they're watching and they read. And what this amendment says, pretty simple. It shouldn't even have to be an amendment because it's constitutional. The Department of Homeland Security cannot use the taxpayer money, the money that has been appropriated for Social Security, for Medicaid, to deport United States citizens. You said that you had a problem with people coming here the illegal way, but now you're willing to deport United States citizens to a prison, which, by the way, its own government officials have said on record, you cannot leave, and if you leave, you're leaving in a body bag. So just for the record, you're about to vote to authorize the Department of Homeland Security to deport United States citizens to foreign prisons in which the government itself of these countries have said you cannot leave that prison, and if you do, you're leaving in a body bag. I just want to make sure that I put that on the record as you're thinking about why you ran for office, who you represent, and representing and upholding the Constitution. With that, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields. I now recognize the ranking member.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is a common sense amendment. It's unfortunate that we have to offer it because it's already in law. But if we have to try to prevent monies being spent in support of an illegal act, then so be it. As a child in elementary school, we learned the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. A lot of our members wear flags in their lapel, talks about how much they love America, how much this democracy is great. But one of the tenets of this democracy is that not only if you're accused of something, you get to face your accuser, you get to provide an adequate defense. If you can't, we'll help pay for it because we want to give you the benefit of the doubt. What we've done is taken the benefit of the doubt away from American citizens and said, it doesn't matter. If you don't look like somebody, we'll deport you. If you do look like somebody, we'll still deport you. That's not who we are. And it's so unfortunate because I would not question anyone's patriotism on this committee because you signed an oath after being elected to this office to do and follow the law. But clearly, what's the problem with saying you can't deport American citizens? What's the problem with saying we're not going to spend any money deporting American citizens to a foreign country? In some instances, they've never been there, don't know anyone. And being mean doesn't make you legal. So I encourage my colleagues that at some point when we vote, you could have a constituent or someone in this same situation, could be a family member, and you'd want every opportunity for the law to prevail in keeping that person here in America. I encourage you to think about it, and it's really almost an embarrassment that we have to make an amendment that's already the law. And the fact that you're going to vote against it for whatever reason other than Donald Trump is telling you, you either vote my way or I'm going to primary you come next election. But you know, this is America. We have to stand on principle. One man can't run everything. One man can't have his way in every instance. One man can't be right 100% of the time. And I just can't understand how adults, for whatever reason, won't challenge a president when they know that president is wrong. I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Would anyone else care to make a comment on the amendment, to the amendment? Hearing none, the question now occurs on the amendment offered by Mr. Magaziner. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the noes